Welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Join us every Wednesday to learn about the latest cutting-edge developments in the real-time communications industry. ClueCon Weekly is brought to you by FreeSwitch Solutions. Get support and professional services directly from the creators of the FreeSwitch open source project, solving your issues in the most efficient, stable, and scalable way possible. Get the FreeSwitch advantage. Visit freeswitch.com. Also brought to you by ClueCon, the premier technology conference for developers by developers. Join us every summer in Chicago. ClueCon kicks off on Monday with our annual hackathon, The Coder Games, followed by 3 days of technology-rich presentations discussing telecom, WebRTC, and IoT from developers around the world. To learn more, visit ClueCon.com or call 877-74-CLUE.
All right, guys, welcome to ClueCon Weekly. Today is the 7th of March, 2018, and today we'll have Matthew Hodgson from the Matrix.org project joining us. If you guys aren't familiar with Matrix, it is a distributed communications platform with some very strong encryption. So Matt will be talking about that very shortly, so you guys stand by for that. Miss Kathleen, how are you doing today, ma'am?
Hi, Ken. I'm doing really well. Hello to all of you, and thank you for joining us today on ClueCon Weekly with our guest, Matthew Hodgson from Matrix. If you have any questions during the call, please comment in the YouTube, HipChat, or IRC channels, and we'll try to answer them during the call. Mike Jarris from the team will be at ComCon in June. See what he has to say about the future of FreeSwitch and visit comcon.xyz for more information, including scheduling. Don't forget to save the date. ClueCon is going to be earlier this year, taking place from July 23rd to July 26th, and you can register right now on ClueCon.com. Don't forget that it is earlier this year. This means all of the deadlines are going to be a little bit sooner. You can take advantage of our February deal. We have our March deal. We have a discount code, ClueCon 2018 March Madness. You can find that on our social media and Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to follow us for all the latest and greatest discount codes as well. And we have basic FreeSwitch training online and at ClueCon. FreeSwitch training will be back at ClueCon 2018. Space is limited, so be sure to register ASAP. And if you would like more information on FreeSwitch training, you can email Sharon@freeswitch.com. We're bringing back the boat tour. So when you're registering for ClueCon, make sure you RSVP for that event. We're very excited. VoiceTel sponsored that last year, and they will be sponsoring it again this year. We're going to take a magical cruise up and down the river and out into the lake for some fantastic views of the city, and you'll get to watch the sunset behind the buildings. It's amazing. It's a great opportunity. Don't miss out. And speakers, signups are open, so start writing those slides today. You have about 26 days left. Deadline is April 1st, so be sure to get those in. Submit your proposals today as soon as you have them. If you have any questions for videos, or if you'd like to see anything, please email us at marketing@cluecon.com. We'll continue to add instructional videos periodically, so make sure you subscribe. And you can go and check out the FreeSwitch with Fred videos right now. They're going over basic key concepts in FreeSwitch, paired nicely with the book, so be sure to go check those out. And as usual, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our mailing list to get these and even more awesome news and announcements from the FreeSwitch team. And that's it for me, Ken.
All right. Thank you very much, Kathleen. Now we're going to go over to Mr. Michael Malvarudis. He's got the Community Corner for us. Michael, how are you doing today?
Great, Ken. Thank you for everyone calling in today. We have a question for Mike Jarris. The question is from Stefan Midaloo, and his question is, hi, is there a way to play back a random wave message after silence threshold has been kept for more than X seconds in a conference? So Mike, how do we do that?
How do we do that? So that's a really interesting use case. It's certainly not one that we've designed Mod Conference to do, but there is a way to accomplish it. So because Mod Conference is so extensible and has all of these events you can use to control it, you can create an external application The easiest way to do that would be to do something using event socket to process the events, and it would be a little bit more difficult. But basically the process would be you would listen for conference create events so that you could start keeping state on when there's a conference there, and then you would listen to the conference maintenance start and stop talking events for each member in that conference, and you would just keep a timer for when you got a period of time where no one was talking, and then you would use a command to play a sound into the conference to play whichever sound file you'd like. So yet another case where FreeSwitch, because it's so extensible and designed to be adapted to all your strange use cases, you can make a application that we never thought of with a fairly simple script just to put it all together. So
what scripting language would you recommend for sitting on ESL?
What do I recommend? I mean, for something like this, I would probably just use Perl, just because it's something that I can do real quickly, but it doesn't really matter. My recommendations on scripting language is usually whatever you feel most comfortable with, and since this is such a simple application, it really doesn't matter. You could do it even in embedded Lua or one of the embedded languages instead of over ESL. ESL just makes a nice clean line where it's easy to run the script. But you could use Ruby, you could use Python, you could use PHP, whatever language that event socket libraries support that you're most comfortable with.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike.
No problem.
And now we have Matthew Hodgson from Matrix.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful.
So Matrix is really cool. I remember the first time you presented it, or the first time I saw it presented, and I was just like, wow, I need to install that and play with it.
Oh, first of all, thank you, and thank you for having me on. I should apologize in advance if I start sneezing or coughing everywhere, because I have man flu, that very technical disease. But yeah, the Matrix is going great guns, and thanks for having us on the show and to have a chat about what I guess we've been doing recently, some of the fun stuff on the horizon, and basically have a chat, I guess, about anything that is going to be of interest to the ClueCon audience. And I should also say that we're thinking about getting involved in ClueCon again this year. We missed it last year due to funding disasters, but I had a really, really good time the year before, although I do remember some impromptu karaoke with Dan Lane that I probably never want to remember again. But hopefully we might be able to get involved with it. I do, and that's the problematic thing. I think I literally had blackmail material sent to me afterwards by Emil from Jitsi, who apparently filmed this entire thing, and I got this single solitary video on Facebook Messenger the next day to basically warn me that this information was now out there and he could use it against me. But either way, hopefully this year we'll be able to come back and try to hit that deadline of April the 1st to get some talks submitted. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you in late July. But so for the people that don't know what Matrix is, why don't you because there's an automatic assumption that just everyone knows, but there's a lot of listeners out there that don't know what Matrix is. So
yeah, of course. I'll try to give the potted summary. I mean, Matrix, as Ken said at the beginning, it's a decentralized communication protocol. Our background is originally doing lots of SIP, lots of H323, lots of IAX for many, many years, and eventually we cracked and built a new protocol on top of HTTP, of all things, called Matrix. And the idea is to provide interoperable instant messaging, voice, video, VR, AR, basically any kind of data exchange So you can use it to publish and subscribe to any kind of data. I mean, it's ideally today used for Slack. My video echo is frozen. Oh, no, I think I'm still here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, so basic, federation, right?
It's a bit more than federation, because federation makes people think of SIP or H323 or email, whereas Matrix is an interesting thing in that it's a hybrid between the old communication technologies and the newer blockchain-style technologies out there. So if I talk to somebody via Matrix, say that we're in a room together, FreeSwitch could be running a Matrix server on freeswitch.org, and I'm obviously running one for matrix.org. But the conversation that we have together is replicated over both servers. And this is the really unusual thing, that if it was like a SIP, simple conversation, or XMPP, or something like that, there would be one chat server, which is the kind of focal point for that conversation. But in Matrix, it gets matrixed together over the various different servers which are participating. And this is deceptively subtle, because it means that literally no single party owns that conversation. If matrix.org went down tomorrow, you would have the entire conversation on your side, and if it came back up, then we'll just seamlessly blend it together. And it means that I don't own it, you don't own it. It is completely democratized almost between us. And that is the really exciting thing that Matrix provides. Basically a big global network where people can create these chat rooms, and they can have conversations or voice calls, video calls. They can spin up the FreeSwitch bridge and do video conferences via FreeSwitch. We also support conferencing via Jitsi these days, so people can embed a little Jitsi thing into their room and basically have this open source decentralized alternative to Slack or Discord or HipChat or stuff like that.
So what have you been working on?
Oh, gosh. So, I mean, the project's relatively old now. We've been at it for 3.5 years, and admittedly, we are still in beta, and the whole aim of this year is to get out of beta, to do a 1.0 release at last. So we've actually frozen features in as of the beginning of this year, and basically going through fixing the performance and the scalability and the stability of everything that we have today. And we honestly put an awful lot of features into it over the last couple of years. We have things like the ability to embed arbitrary web apps into rooms. So things like the Jitsi integration is just an iframe of a Jitsi conference, which you can embed into the room. But it could also be any kind of iframe. So it could be a Google Doc. It could be, I know, shall I show you? I mean, can I easily pull up my screen share perhaps, and I can give you a quick tour of what Riot looks like. And Riot is the flagship Matrix client that we build here. Are folks able to see my screen share? Do I need to do some magic to enable my screen share? Anyone? Bulla? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So beautiful digital video around there here. So I'm actually showing my whole screen here. Let me switch over to Riot here. So this is Riot running in Riot Web. And here's a typical room. It's got only 79 people. This is one of our relatively internal channels. We've got some nice features here, like read receipts showing who's read up to a given message. I'm actually in over 1,000 different conversations here. Many of them are big public chat rooms. So let me go to something like Matrix HQ here. Matrix HQ has got 14,000 people in it right now. I've got Ken going and complaining that there's some federation problems between one of his servers and the matrix.org server. We can go and investigate that later, or we can see people going and taking screenshots of the show. Wow, this is a very meta thing as we watch kind of the show in real time, getting reactions now. So this is a much more interesting room because we've got loads and loads of people in there. There's Ken binging me. I can say, hi, Ken. And what else can we see? Yeah, basically lots of activity here. There was a gap in the day when 19 people went and read up to this message but haven't come back since. And, it's a really, really scalable active thing. Honestly, it leaves Slack in the dust. I still don't think that Slack even gives you read receipts. And obviously we love it. More fun thing we could do was a worrying.
So how do you address security?
How do we address security?
Must be an enormous issue when you have so many different sources. How does that work?
Yeah, security is a fun deal on this because this room in particular is spread over about 800 different servers. So every time I say something in Matrix HQ, it is literally being replicated over them. And some people in this room have ops and they have mod privileges, and we kick people, we ban them, and we basically have a consensus algorithm, kind of similar to a blockchain system after a fashion. It's not actually a blockchain, but it's basically a Merkle-proof algorithm that we can use to justify how we do operations like that. So, I mean, what I'm actually showing here is my Riot iOS, and all of the other Riot deployments are native. So obviously this guy in the background is running inside Chrome as a web browser, but here we have a completely native iOS app written in Objective-C, and there's also an equivalent one on Android. I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm in hundreds of rooms. You can literally see I'm in 725 rooms here, and I've got 612 one-to-ones going on with various different people. And if I jump into, say, Matrix HQ via here, then you can see I've got some bings coming in. And there is James heckling me about doing live demos being dangerous. And I can say, always dangerous here. And obviously all get synchronized over nicely in real time, assuming, of course, I have enough connectivity to send the message. I think the live demo thing is always going to make this a bit risky. I should also mention that the matrix.org server is very overloaded at the moment, which is probably why we're seeing a little bit of delay. There we go, always dangerous coming in there for propagating messages around the place. And in terms of your original question of what have we been getting up to, a lot of the last 6 months has been scalability. If I flip over to show you some of our uptake stats recently, this is daily active users on just the matrix.org server itself. And this is stretching out over the last 2 years. You can see that 2016 was pretty tame. 2017 really started to whack up at one level, and then halfway through the year it's starting to accelerate further. We're now at around 35, 40,000 actually, because this was February, and we're now up to 40,000 in the last couple of weeks of traffic. And lots and lots of work is going into the scalability side of things to keep things snappy. Now, it should be fine if you're on your own server, but if you're using a massive one like matrix.org, it's where a lot of our time is going. Also, on our monthly active users, we're up at, well, if we include these guys, it's about 250,000, again, just on the matrix.org server. If we exclude the other ones, it's about 150,000 MAU at the moment. If I just also dip into some of the other...
That's almost like hockey puck type growth, right? Or
hopefully.
Growth.
Hopefully. I mean, looking at things like the daily traffic, again, it's very much got this slightly exponential growth going on. It's only 1 million messages a day, and this was actually back in August 2017. I don't have a more up-to-date graph than this to hand, but I think we're up to about 1.5 million messages since then. And kind of fun one is also looking at the number of servers we can see, which again, as of the summer of last year, is up at about 3,000. I think it's now up at about 5,000 different deployments out there, which isn't massive, let's face it, relative to FreeSwitch or email or the web. But as long as it's accelerating in the right direction, we're hoping that things are on the right track. But certainly, as I said, the fact we've been in beta, the fact that we have scalability challenges at the current scale is a lot of the stuff that we're trying to address. And one of the fun projects actually is getting away from our old Python code base. So today, matrix.org runs on Synapse, which is a Python-infested app. However, we've been working a lot on Dendrite, which is our next generation Golang home server. and it's about 90% done yet. We're hoping to finish it off to a phase 1 in the next couple of months. Honestly, we've been delayed on it because we keep working away on Python and the Synapse implementation, especially in the last couple of months. We basically have made very little progress ourselves. But luckily, the community has stepped up. And
so what are your experiences?
Oh, there we go, Dendrite Dev.
What are your experiences with between the efficiency of the two languages?
The efficiency of, or in terms of the web versus iOS, or?
Yeah, so like you're talking about scalability, but Go obviously,
Oh, right, yeah.
So Go would probably be more efficient than Python, especially when you're talking about scalability.
Yeah, and very well. It's both a language choice, but also a scalability, an architectural choice. So you can see that people, actually, everyone here is from the community, is hacking away on Dendrite whilst we're preoccupied in Synapse. And thank you, by the way, if anybody watching this is involved in that. But yeah, if I go and quickly pull up the GitHub page for Dendrite, it's got quite a nice diagram on it called wiring.md. And this is literally a block diagram of what a Dendrite looks like. Hopefully you can just about see it on my screen share there. But the important thing is that it basically splits down into about 8 different modules here. So you've got the guy which receives data from Federation, the guy that handles syncing data to clients. We've got room servers, which actually model rooms. We've got the thing that handles push, the thing that handles server search. And all of these are separate applications. Now you can link them together into a single big Go monolithic binary, or you can go and run multiple ones. And the really fun thing is that each and every one of them scales horizontally. So you can just keep on clustering up as many different room servers or as many different Federation receivers as you like, and they go and coordinate using Kafka by default as an append-only log system to go and shove traffic through the cluster. And it's just totally the opposite of Synapse, which is effectively a monolithic approach written in Python, whereas this is not only Go, it's basically designed to scale up to hundreds of millions of users. So it's super exciting. I wish I could be announcing that it was ready for prime time. We've got lots of demos, the various bits of it working, but there's still the kind of missing 10% that we're hopefully going to finish in the next few months.
That's really cool. So what are the latest clients?
Latest client, that's a very good question. So, I mean, I've shown you Riot and Riot iOS. Now, if I was more organized, I would already have a Neko spun up. So Neko is a relatively new client, which has been written entirely by the community. The maintainer is a guy called Mujex. Oh, there we go. Welcome to Neko, the desktop client from Matrix. Enjoy your stay. And this is a Qt desktop app here. So there's no web stuff going on here at all. And it's completely cross-platform across Windows or Linux or OS 10 or Mac OS or whatever it is. So if I go and try logging into this using one of my test accounts, and I hope that it's going to hide my password, which it is. That's always nice. I'm hoping I got my password right, which I haven't. Let me try that again. Chug. Okay, it's going to try logging into the horribly overloaded home server. The initial login is a bit slow, but once it's up, perhaps we'll come back to it in a minute. It will be a really, really good example of a completely different Matrix client that folks are building out there. Another one, which appeared only a couple of days ago, I think, is called Evelium, which is written by one of the guys in the community called Travis Ralston. And this is going great guns. This is a web client, but it's written in Angular 5, whereas Riot Web is written in React. So it's kind of fun because we started off using Angular 1 for Matrix clients on the web. We then moved to React, and it's kind of come full circle with Travis going and working on Evelium. I don't have a copy to demo here, and there don't seem to be any screenshots, but I saw some on the Evelium room. Perhaps if I flip over to Riot and filter it down to Evelium, and in fact I can show you the search for files button here. which again, assuming the server isn't totally overloaded, should start pulling in a whole bunch of images. Ooh, look at this. So not only do we have some images of what it looks like, and you can see it's very early, it's literally a few weeks old, but it's giving a very different vibe to Riot. And there's even a movie which is showing an embarrassing bug on Riot here, where the movie is off the page. Let me click on that and see what happens if I view this. Oh, trying to play it in Firefox, that is not helpful. Let's see what the preview is. Come on, Firefox, do your thing. And there we go. Oh, that's cute. So that's going and filtering rapidly down the left-hand panel to look at all the different rooms going on. And, you know, for something that's a couple of weeks old, it's looking incredibly promising. And it gives you an idea of how easy it is to build new Matrix clients, because in the end, it is just a HTTP API. So anybody who knows how to use a web service, who knows how to use curl, can send a message, receive a message, and it's literally an HTTP put to send a message, or an HTTP get to /sync to receive messages. So there's one client. Let me go back to Neko, which is now joined. And if I go to Matrix HQ here, first thing, and it's not going to come across very well on the video cast, but the switching between rooms is incredibly fast here. So if I click on Neko room and back to HQ, this is a proper native app here now, which is very exciting. And you can see it looks pretty good. I can talk to people, obviously. And you can see we've got piping notifications going in. We can send them. There is indeed the message from James. Apparently a new version of Matrix is available, which is exciting. I'm not sure what he's getting at there, but I'm sure it's exciting, whatever it is. And again, you can see this even in this test account. I've got hundreds of different rooms going on, and rapidly switching between them is really very snappy and a lot of fun. So that's probably stuff to say about clients. I can show you something completely different, though, that we did for FOSDEM, the big open source conference in Brussels this year, which is a totally different type of Matrix client. Would that be interesting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Sorry for monopolizing and steering things over, but this is something that I hacked together for FOSDEM, because Matrix, as I said at the beginning, isn't just about chat. It's not just about chat rooms and VoIP and video. It's really meant to be a fabric for exchanging any kind of data. One of the things which we've been playing with recently is, let me find which of my 1 million different windows is the right one, is VR. So we started this demo last year, and let me see if I can actually make it work. And hopefully, actually I know what I need to do here. I've killed Node in the background here. Let me set Node running. Let's go and build a new version of a little web app. Come on. There we go. And refresh this quickly. So the VR demo we built last year to give an idea of how you could use Matrix for communication within VR. Because just as Matrix allows you to mix together existing communication silos, like, I don't know, voice, like Slack and Telegram and all that sort of thing. You basically got the same effects going on here in VR, where you have lots of different technologies which don't talk to one another really at all today. So Matrix can go and provide the instant messaging and the voice and video for that. And at first, what we did was to just put some WebRTC video calling into WebVR. So what we're looking at here is a WebVR scene. If I go and scroll around like this, hopefully, oh, come on, I'm getting some interesting echo back here. Let me mute myself. There we go, that's better. Now I'm hoping that my computer has got enough CPU to do this and the screencast and the FreeSwitch conference at the same time. Oh, it does. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at some of the world's first ever 3D video calling. So I'm here in a WebVR environment in plain old Chrome, nothing special going on here at all. And what you're looking at is obviously me in 3D. My poor computer is melting, but it's just about keeping it together. And the fun thing is that I'm actually doing this call from an iPhone 10, which means that we've got a video signal for obviously the video texture, but it's also got a depth camera, a bit like a Kinect, which is going and capturing the depth field of the video call. Now, this is very, very hacky and hasn't been polished at all, so it doesn't look quite as good as it could do. But the important thing is that if we go to the side a bit and look at me in profile here, you'll realize that we've actually got a full 3D environment here. So if I go and move my hand towards the camera and away from it, other than where it's obviously in the way of my face, perhaps it would be better if I do it in front of my chest, you get the impression that it's literally giving you a "Help me, Obi-Wan, I'm your only hope" kind of 3D hologram view of this button, and we had a Vive or something hooked up, then you get full set, which is really quite impressive in terms of the stereographic view of what's going on. And of course, it's crapped out now, but no, it's probably long enough to give an idea.
Wait, so how did you pull this off?
So what we did was to take WebRTC on iOS and hack it so that you could capture both the depth camera and the video camera, and then we encode the depth signal as a video stream. And luckily, Chrome lets you transfer two video streams at the same time for a given call, and so we literally just do two at the same time, and amazingly, it works relatively okay. It uses a GLSL shader in order to go and mix it all together. Can you hear the annoying voice, by the way?
What's that?
Get the demo running again. Sorry, the video is actually talking loudly, which is very distracting for me, but I have now muted it, and it's fine. I'm just waiting for the 3D call to kick in again so that you guys can see it, hopefully. But yeah, oh, there we are. So yeah, here we are, we're back again. So basically, this thing is a GLSL shader. Obviously, we cut off anything beyond a given depth threshold. We've also done some tricks to try to reduce the smearing around the edge, but the fact is that it's always going to be a bit weird and smeary around the edge. And it's basically a fun proof of concept of how things could end up looking. Oh, there we go. That's quite a good view after a fashion of depth in the future in the VR world. So yeah, that's basically what went into it, and it was a silly 24-hour hack, basically to show people for FOSDEM and give them an idea that Matrix can be about quite a lot more than just instant messaging and chat. And it's always fun to play around in the holodeck, because let's face it, who doesn't want to hang out in a Season 2 TNG holodeck?
You know what's funny is a lot of functionality always starts out as like a short hack, but it's turning it into, you know, and making it more finite and granular. That becomes the time intensive component. Right, so you basically have like a proof of concept, and I'm not talking about this, but I'm just talking in general, you know, and then to actually, you know, put it into production, implement it, and stuff like that. It could be, you know, months.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, and I'm hoping that we'll actually land this seriously at some point. But honestly, given a choice between polishing Matrix and making it sort of fit for purpose versus pressing around in VR, we're obviously going to be prioritizing the VR side of things. I have lost my screen share, by the way. I just switched back to FreeSwitch and noticed that you're looking at a really old image from the earlier demo. Is it all broken?
There we go.
We probably lost it while we were killing your CPU.
Sorry about that. Well, hopefully people got an idea before it crashed. So yeah, that's the silly thing that we've been doing recently.
Well, a lot of, you know, what's interesting is a lot of the initial, there was some video processing occurring on the handset though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was taking the two video streams. And was that going across an LTE?
Actually, that was just Wi-Fi, point to point in the office here. So, and it's only about 400 kilobits a second of traffic for the two video streams. It turns out that the depth camera that you get on your iPhone 10, which you probably can't quite see, but it's in the infamous notch at the top. In fact, you can see the dot projector really clearly as the red thing that was glowing at you being picked up. Oh, in fact, you can see it blinking all over the place. How exciting. So you got the dot projector there and then an infrared camera next to it. And that's capturing at 640 by 480 at 24 frames a second. But it gives you the result in that very well-known unit of 16-bit floating point numbers. So if anybody has hacked around with floating point stuff in C, they're probably familiar with floats, which are like 32-bit, and doubles, which are 64-bit. You've almost certainly not encountered 16-bit, which are like half precision, and it's not a normal primitive that you get. And so Apple's API on the iPhone 10 hands you depth data measured in meters, expressed as this weird floating point half precision number. So you basically have to take this grayscale image, that's the Z buffer, and encode it as an RGB 24-bit 420
like
packed video signal.
So you have a lot of end-to-end encryption.
Lost me. Oh, I'm back now. So if basically you've got to collapse the Z buffer into RGB, and there are lots of different ways of doing it. We cheated in the end and turned it into an 8-bit buffer, which is why it looks a bit crap, honestly. But there's an interesting paper that talks about how you can map it through into RGB. And the idea is that you use the 8-bit quantized signal on the blue buffer, and then on the red and the green channels, you have higher frequency detail. So you end up with this weird stripy thing where things get more blue as they move closer towards the camera. But then as they move towards the camera, they alternate between red and green and red and green. So you can kind of triangulate in more detail where something is. And it's a kind of an interesting idea, and we didn't really get it to work, which is why we ended up just doing it as 8-bit. It's absolutely not how you're meant to do it. The WebRTC standards guys are working on an official way to do depth data over WebRTC, and it sure as hell doesn't involve making it look like a color video signal. But yeah, that's basically what we were up to there.
But in the meantime, we just got to work with what we got, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about, you do a lot of end-to-end encryption too, right?
Yeah, pardon me. Yeah, we do. And this was a big emphasis over the last couple of years. First of all, getting all the crypto primitives in place, which we finished actually at the end of 2016. We got it audited and is very well respected as a very robust implementation of the double ratchet algorithm that Signal uses, also extended to handle group conversations of the nature we have in Matrix. What we've been doing since then is actually trying to get it out in the wild as a proper system. And it turns out that the key sharing and the user experience aspects are a lot more challenging, especially in a decentralized environment, than the actual crypto. So basically, the crypto itself kicks ass, but the key sharing, where you need to get the keys to somebody else in a room to decrypt, is a lot more challenging, not to mention verifying on it. And yeah, I mean, it's basically where PGP falls down in many ways. You have to mess around with key servers, or how WhatsApp and Signal also get a little bit dodgy at points in terms of visualizing who you're talking to and how do they get the keys and all that sort of thing. So that's where we've been spending lots of time trying to improve things. It's not there yet, irritatingly. And during the funding disruption I mentioned last year, we certainly saw a big impact on the bandwidth that we had to work on end-to-end, but we're hoping that we're going to make proper progress on it in the next couple of months. Ironically, the main person working on it right now is me, which is not great because I'm juggling everything else as well.
So you mentioned Signal. I love the Signal app. Great application. But you were talking about keys, and so you're talking about how there's the option to like read like a couple of words to verify that there's no man in the middle type stuff.
Yeah, so the key verification stuff that Signal does specifically is relatively good, but it's a lot easier for them because it's completely centralized. When you're using the service, you're completely trusting the app that you're running from Signal, and you're trusting the servers that it's connecting to do the right kind of thing, whereas Matrix is obviously totally decentralized. And we just need to get on and implement some of the key verification stuff. In fact, there's a really nice proposal from the community for doing just this, for creating a kind of comparison phrase that you can read out to one another. And it's very simple. It's like 4 words, and that's enough to give you a very high level of confidence that you're talking to the right person and that you're not being attacked. But we have all the decentralization problems in Matrix that if a room splits, which it's completely allowed to, so I'm chatting to people on my Matrix server and you're talking to people on the FreeSwitch server, what happens if somebody joins that conversation on the FreeSwitch side? Should I be encrypting messages for them? Because I don't even know that they're in the room. And that's what I mean by the key management problem that has been a huge pain for us, trying to work out how hard.
Well, also, what's, like one of the things with my experiences with Signal, what's the practicality, what's the actual practicality that people, in the real world will use those phrases? I mean, it's just they're I think a lot of people just go out to a website, read that it's secure, don't look at anything else, and then just start using it, right?
Absolutely.
And so the question is, how do you train people to use it properly? Like, how do you make it more cognizant? Is there a way to do it through like a procedure or protocol that would make it so the end user doesn't have to go through that type of interop almost?
This is the billion-dollar question, and honestly, we were quite naive going into the end-to-end stuff, thinking that all we needed to that the hard bit was going to be building super efficient and auditable crypto codecs. And no, it's entirely this. All of the challenges here are UX. How do you steer users into doing these slightly weird things without them needing to know what a key is, without needing to know what decentralization is? Because we want Matrix to be as accessible as Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp is to people today, whilst also giving a good level of privacy. And you're right, it's almost an open area of research of how do you slowly steer people so that it becomes slightly natural that before they send their naked photos to one another or do whatever sensitive operation they want to do, they might possibly want to double check that they're actually talking to the person they think they're talking to and they're not being intercepted. And we're basically very aware of this, and it's been starved out over the last couple of months, but we're hoping that we're going to make some good progress in the very near future.
Cool. Either that or we just get rid of the people, right?
Yeah, God, it'd be so much easier if it was just chunks of JSON being handed between computers, none of those pesky humans, and it'd be brilliant. But as tempting as it is to basically turn Matrix into IRC or a kind of old school Telnet MUD or Moo or something, and get it more and more geeky and less mass market, I think that if it's going to grow much more than it already is, we really need to make it a little bit more mass market accessible, and that means fixing stuff like this.
So you talked a little bit about the future of Matrix. What do you have on the schedule for from a development standpoint and feature set? What's coming out?
Sure. So, as I said at the beginning, we're basically frozen right now. The only things that we're going to have an exception on for freezing is editable messages. I'm going to sneeze spectacularly at some point, possibly. I'll try to mute myself before deafening everybody. Editable messages and reactions. And they're the two kind of table state things that everybody else has that we don't have. And the reason is that, again, they're surprisingly hard in a decentralized environment. They're both flavors of what we call aggregations, where you need to start editing and annotating existing events in an efficient manner. And so a good example is reactions. If you've got a big room with 12,000 people in it, and everybody goes and hits like on a given message, say that you're building more of a social network style thing than a chat system, do you really want to send 12,000 like objects all the way around all of those servers? You can imagine the efficiency problems that you get as, wait a minute, let me just sync my client. Oh, wait, it's now downloading 25 megabytes of the word like. I mean, it could be, if done naively, incredibly inefficient. And we really want to try to get the infrastructure in place to get that right. In practice, we're probably going to cheat for now and do the naive approach rather than the sophisticated one. But it's a shame because the sophisticated one is really exciting and basically uses zero-knowledge proofs to say, look, here is the proof that 20,000 people hit like on this message. I'm not going to send you all the gory details, but it's a proof. And if you want to check that proof, you can interrogate me to get some more information about that, to get comfortable with the fact that I'm not making up the results. And ironically, it's kind of similar to online voting systems and other decentralized sort of open areas of research. So that's what we'd like to do in order to get reactions and then provide it as a general primitive. But as I said, in practice, we're probably just going to cheat and say, hey, we'll just treat them as normal messages and stitch them together and pragmatically.
So does this somehow tie into like blockchain stuff? Because
Yeah, there's an element to that. Again, it's more the decentralized aspects and how you use these Merkle data structures, which is basically a fancy way for saying that you cryptographically sign data structures in a ongoing manner, just like Git does, just like Bitcoin does, where every time you do a new operation, you sign it with the history, the signature of the things which preceded it, so you can't mess around with it, so you have integrity. And that is what Matrix is for its conversations, and it's very similar in that respect to blockchain. What we don't have, though, is a proof of work or a proof of stake or proof of authority style system, because in the end it doesn't matter if two people talk over one another on Matrix. No one's going to lose any money. And it's much more important to have low latency communication than a globally consistent ledger. So that's basically the sweet spot that we target. But we do have a lot of contact with the guys in the blockchain ecosystem, especially on the Ethereum side. And the conclusion of our funding crisis last year was actually a very generous investment from Status.im, who are another decentralized communications project active in the Ethereum space. And Status are actually building solutions on top of Whisper, which is the pub/sub protocol that Ethereum provides, as well as PSS, which is the postbox protocol that Swarm, which is again a kind of file sharing superset of Ethereum, is working on. And Status is like Matrix, but more so in many ways. It's really trying to build a completely peer-to-peer decentralized communications network. So no servers at all, unless you really want to create a kind of supernode. And they're very aligned with us philosophically. They were fortunate enough to get very well funded when they did an ICO, one of the very first ones. I think they were the largest in the world at the time when they did it back in May of last year. And so have got good funding, and it was very useful for us and hopefully useful for them as well, that they invested in Matrix in order to keep the project, our project, well funded, and to basically leverage any of the synergies, at the risk of business speak, between the two projects. So we, for instance, are talking to them about their end-to-end encryption. We're also integrating some of their distributed apps into Matrix. They're also looking at using Matrix to bridge between their ecosystem and everything else, because they're not so focused on bridging, whereas Matrix is a lot more about bridging different protocols together. So not really what you asked about, although you made the mistake of mentioning the blockchain word, but that gives possibly some idea of what we've been up to there.
It's all very interesting stuff, though. So I've got this idea, right? Why don't we take questions from the audience, but you can choose an app and you source them, and it could be from every different medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unfiltered questions from the audience, straight from through me.
Sounds like a plan. I mean, I could. So are we going to come in on Free Switch, or should I look on Matrix itself and see if there are people posing them there?
I've got an unfiltered question for you, Matthew.
Sure.
So I've been playing with Matrix, as you know, and you've helped me out a little bit over the past couple of weeks as I got my home server set up. One of the things that I have noticed, though, is there's a separate identity server. And there only seems to be like a few that are actually trusted out there across the network. Can you address that a little bit? And is it
yeah, absolutely. So identity is one of the unsolved problems in Matrix, really. And at the moment, the service which we provide is matrix.org, a jury rig. It's a bodge, honestly. It ought to.
Bless you.
Oh, let's give Matthew just a moment.
The good thing is we don't get the germs, at least not yet. Got to start working on that one.
Do not want germs over IP.
And I think
There'll be a whole new antivirus market out for that if you try.
Oh, that's the new idea.
Uh-oh, Matthew, you're still muted. Nope, still muted. Let's see here. Nope. I think
Sure that I didn't blow my microphone?
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Honestly, I think I might have just blown the mic in my headset by sneezing so loudly. That's the only explanation I can provide.
And they
anyway, so I was saying identity servers. It's a bodge right now. We've got 3 centralized ones which are trusted, run by us, and all they do is to look up email addresses to matrix IDs, and that's all they do. They don't have usernames or passwords or profile data. It's literally a discovery mechanism, so that if I know your email address, how can I talk to you on Matrix? Now, the community has done a lot of work to improve on this. And there's a project called MXISD, written by a guy called Max Dorr in Belgium. And it's a Java identity server that implements the same API, but it provides self-hosted identity. And it provides federation semantics so that one can have a local identity server for your own users, which delegates through to other identity ones as well. And it's pretty cool. We haven't played with it much ourselves. Honestly, it's
a little
not
scary too, though, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a little scary too.
In terms of the centralized approach we've got at the moment, yeah, I don't say it's that scary because it has so little data and it's not used for logging in or anything. It literally is just used for discovering people to talk to. So it's a very limited feature set. But we want to fix it probably either by federation or ideally go all the way through to decentralization and have one of these blockchain identity style projects like Uport or Evanim or Blockstack perhaps, or one of these systems to basically publish the mappings. But we just haven't got anybody working on identity right now. So it's continuing to be a bit of a jury measure, honestly. We'd much rather get the rest of Matrix working well and then come back to that once everything else is alpha beta than try to boil the ocean at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so do we have any other questions from the audience?
Am I free?
Everybody's quiet today.
How would someone just get started to and install and do a base installation?
So easiest bet is obviously to use Synapse, the Python system, and we provide Debian packages. There are third-party RPM packages I personally always just install it from Git, which is very simple to git clone it and run a Python virtual env, and up it comes up and running. The one gotcha I would suggest is that you should probably jump straight to Postgres these days. It defaults to SQLite as its database, which was fine when Matrix was a lot smaller, but nowadays it's just a disaster. The second you start talking to the wider open network, it all falls over unless you're using Postgres. And then on the client side, you can just install Riot off the app stores on iOS or Android, or F-Droid for that matter. Or you can take the Riot web deployment on riot.im/app and point it at your own server. Or you can use any of the other Matrix clients that I was showing off earlier.
Wow, that's cool. And words of wisdom, use Postgres.
Definitely on this one. We're kind of regretting ever supporting SQLite, to be honest, because it's just not up to the job. Plus, we take the time to really highly optimize the queries on Postgres, and they always get forgotten on SQLite. So I dread to think what stupidity there is there, which ends up slowing it all down.
Well, we're coming up on the hour. Matthew, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cool stuff. Yeah, really cool and impressive stuff. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Matthew, thank you very much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. For you guys that want to know more about Matrix, go check out matrix.org, and you'll find that link below in the show notes. It's actually really easy to set up, and the guys that hang out in Matrix HQ are great for giving out pointers and that kind of thing. So you check them out there. Don't forget, we'll probably see Matthew at ClueCon. So you guys want to come join us for that, go to ClueCon.com for more information there. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Also, if you want to see what's coming up on ClueCon Weekly, click the subscribe button below and check off the little notifications button there, and you'll get alerts as we announce and set up the new podcast coming up in the future. So we'll see you guys next week, and have a good week.
You've been watching ClueCon Weekly. Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central. Keep up with the latest happenings by subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or visit us at freeswitch.com.